We're super pumped to have, this is the first time, 9 people on the Smash podcast at one time. This is a big undertaking. So you see a lot of equipment, you see a lot of awesome high school professional athletes. Got Sam here along with me too. We are going to attempt to talk a little bit about athletics and how that applies to our everyday life. With social media and just news and information being so available now, it's easy for the exciting limelight stuff to get out there, but a lot of times we don't see the grit, the hard work, the time that's put in when no one's looking, and we want to talk a little bit about that today. So we've got Frank Zombo and John DiGiorgio with us, who professional athletes, professional football players, and we're going to hopefully glean some information from you today. And one of the things, too, is as young athletes, you guys got younger athletes. Like my son's 13, 14 years old. He looks up to guys like you. He played football in 9th grade at Eisenhower. So when he saw you going up there at the banquet, he looks up to you, So you got younger guys underneath you. You might come here today thinking like, I'm going to get something out of this. Like you got younger guys underneath you getting something from you. So I want you to go in this today with that attitude, okay? So we're hoping that we all learn something today and find a good time. We're going to try to keep it to 45 minutes. And so that's what we're hoping to do today.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. I just want to add, first off, thank you guys for coming. We appreciate it. When you make it to the top, there's guys that focus on themselves, and then there's guys that understand the importance of focusing on others. So as a tribute and understanding, you guys, 2 guys here that are here, 2 days before Christmas, taking time away from their families because they recognize that they want to make a difference. And you're going to hear a lot about these guys today. A lot of their life today is focused on others. So always keep that in mind. And no matter what you're doing and no matter how successful you are and everything, it's super important to stay grounded and to help, all those around you. Just like I'm sure they have plenty of stories they're going to share with you today about guys that help them, get to where they're at and where they're going. So keep that in mind. So thanks, guys. We appreciate this big time. We understand your time is important. So
thanks for having us.
So listen, guys, here's the mission today. The mission is hopefully you guys hear something that either motivates you to get to the next level. Hopefully you guys hear something that kind of re-energizes you towards whatever your goals are. Hopefully you understand the importance of, sharing your knowledge. And ultimately, you guys walk out of here ready to run through a wall. That's the goal. Also, this podcast, as we discussed beforehand, is probably going to be viewed at least 50,000 times. Our normal podcasts are viewed 50,000 times. So I'm going to guess that with all you guys here and all your social media connections and with Mr. DiGiorgio and Mr. Zombo here, it might even break 50,000. So keep that in mind. Let's have some fun. Let's try and make a difference. As long as you guys are good with that, let's talk about the format. What we're going to do is we're going to ask the professionals a question. They're going to answer it. We want you guys to be involved. We want you guys to ask some questions that might pertain to the particular question that we ask them. And then at the end of the day, we're going to open it up. We're going to have a round table. You guys are going to have the opportunity to ask any questions that you guys might have for these guys. So as long as you're okay with that, let's ring the bell and get it going.
Awesome. So we're going to start out with the high school athletes. Give your name, what sport you're, how old you are, what school you go to, and what sport you play.
So my name is Frank Gallo. I go to Brother Rice High School, and I play football and lacrosse there.
My name is Brady Thomas. I go to Brother Rice. I'm a senior there. I play football, baseball, and I'm starting up lacrosse right now.
My name is Michael Agrasso. I go to Holy Family. I'm in 8th grade, and right now I'm playing soccer.
My name is Braylon Burnside. I go to Eisenhower High School. I'm a senior. I play football, and I'm in track.
My name is Alec Wernes. I go to U of D Jesuit. I'm in 10th grade, and I play baseball.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys being here.
Thank you.
I'm going to start us off, John.
I'm John DiGiorgio, retired football player from the Buffalo Bills. Went to Saginaw Valley State University and currently teach physical education at Chippewa Valley High School, and I coach varsity football at Eisenhower High School.
My name is Frank Zombo, retired 9-year NFL vet. I have 4 little boys and been married, my high school sweetheart. And right now I'm currently the vice president of sales for a startup company, logistics company that based in downtown Rochester.
Cool. Awesome, guys. Appreciate everybody being here again. I can't thank everyone enough, so appreciate it. So we definitely want to hear about, like, this is the main piece of the puzzle. Like, you know, sometimes you look at guys like you, it's like you just see a snapshot of, oh, wow, they made it. But, like, how did you get there? You know what I mean? Like, obviously it's a huge story that we wouldn't be able to hear every detail, but, like, tell us a little bit of the background. Tell us, you know, the path. And I know it's a big question, but if you can try to condense it down into, how, like, what are the steps that got you to that point?
I'll go first, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it's a long journey, and I know we got 45 minutes, so I'm going to try to sum it up as quick as possible. Do I think I was the best athlete or smartest person throughout that whole time, going through junior high, high school, college, making it to the NFL? I think, was I good enough? Yes, obviously I did it, but there's a lot of decisions I made along that way that give me the best odds or opportunity to make it to that point. There's so much luck involved to get to that. I mean, you're talking fractions of a percentage to make it to the NFL. And there's a lot of decisions that I had to make where, coming from kids in high school, you're going to be presented with decisions in your life, whether it's to go out at night, whether it's to drink alcohol and go drive, or getting in a car with somebody that's driving, that can alter that path into these different directions that could take you in the right way or the wrong way. And your name is so important to you, especially now in this age of social media. As soon as you mess up one time, everyone's going to know about it, and it's going to tarnish your name and those opportunities to put you in that right position, or to give you that best opportunity to put you in those goals you want to ultimately make it to. So I think, again, I could go on this for a longer time, but for the sake of time, I'm going to shorten it up. I think I was very lucky, and I think I consciously made those decisions throughout my life, whether it was not to drink, the things you talked about earlier, the things when nobody's watching, the character things. Character is what you're doing when nobody's watching. Whether it was working out in my basement or running when nobody was watching me, but like doing those little things that put me in to have the best opportunity. And we can expand later on, but to give me the best opportunity to make it to where I was. There's so many guys that I watched that were better athletes than me, smarter than me, but just made wrong decisions that they didn't play college football because maybe they had a child at a younger age, not that it was a bad thing. It just took it didn't put them the best opportunity to have their goal to play in the NFL or play college football later in life. So whatever that may be, those decisions, they matter, and they multiply or, to put you in that best possible situation.
Awesome advice.
I think for me, a lot of things Frank said took a lot of discipline and sacrifice. Like he mentioned, you give up a lot. For me, it was like a lot of short-term goals and then long-term goals, things that I had in mind. When I was in high school, just wanted to be the best, person and best player that I could be on the field, and then ultimately set a goal to get to college. And then when I got to college, you kind of reevaluate your goals and your dreams and, what you want to accomplish. So for me, it kind of worked out a little bit in reverse order. When I got to college, I wanted to graduate. That was my number one priority. When I first entered in as a freshman, I didn't really have an idea that I was going to be able to have an opportunity to play in the NFL, playing at a Division II school. Small school guy. A lot of guys don't get that opportunity. So for me, it was like, my goal is to really be here and get a college degree. That was something that was really important in my family, that was stressed from my dad. And so I had that opportunity. And then, as my career kind of went on, I had a lot of success on the field as well. So then I had the opportunity to get into the National Football League and was without my degree. So kind of things worked out a little bit backwards for me. It was a little bit different of a path. But my dreams kind of came true because of the sacrifices and discipline that I had. Surrounded myself with good people, people that were like-minded, people that were going to keep me out of trouble, and really had some good coaches and mentors that really helped me along the way. and really just remain focused on what I wanted to accomplish and what I wanted to do. And that kind of kept me humble and kept me disciplined. And one thing I forgot to mention, as Frank mentioned, I married my high school sweetheart too. And, she really kind of kept me in line. And having her in my life really kind of helped me along the way and kept me disciplined. And I have shared 2 beautiful children with her. We have a son named Johnny. He's 14 years old, and my daughter Juliana is 13. So having her in my life really has helped me out a lot. And just having that discipline and remaining focused on my path and what I wanted to do really helped me out in my career.
So one question I have is, it sounded like is this something that you guys always like, all right, I want to play in the NFL, and that's what you had been focused on? Or was it, hey, this as your journey kind of progressed, it's like, wow, this could actually happen?
I think for me, like, that was always in the back of my head. Like, when I was in elementary school and playing, Pee Wee football for the Shelby Lions, and, I recognized that at a young age that, there was something there, and then when I got into junior high and high school, I always felt like, I had, some type of advantage on the field, whatever it was. I think, instinctually, I just was able to diagnose plays, different than some of the other players that I played with. I kind of recognized that at a young age. We ended up having a lot of success in high school, and I broke my leg in the state championship game. And there were some things that happened that really didn't, I was kind of undersized too coming out of high school, and I was only like 200 pounds. Okay. And back then, earlier, like in the early 2000s, they were looking for linebackers that were a little bit bigger. So I ended up at a Division II school, Saginaw Valley, and but looking back on it, I was a little discouraged at first, going there and having the dreams that I had of playing in the NFL. But it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. Having the coach that I had there really instilled a lot of the things in me that I still use to this day. My position coach, having him around me, someone that really I look up to and has kind of created the man that I am today and helped me along my journey. But once I was at Saginaw Valley, there was a couple guys that went before me that had an opportunity and were able to get into NFL camps. There was 2 receivers a couple years before I left Saginaw Valley, and then there was an offensive lineman that got drafted in the 4th round the year before I left. And once I seen that those guys were able to have that opportunity and able to kind of break through, I realized that, my dreams could have came true and had a lot of success and had a lot of interest. My senior year, scouts showing up. And once, kind of realized that there was some interest there, all I really figured out was that I needed an opportunity. Because Frank will tell you too that in the NFL, it's a numbers game. There's only so many guys that are going to get an opportunity, number one. And once you get that opportunity, like there's a 53-man roster, and there's so many guys out there that are talented, and for whatever reason, they just don't get that opportunity. And I just feel like if I was able to break through and get an opportunity, that there's something that I could display out on the field that would get a coach to recognize that. And that's one thing that I took into the NFL camp is just, I'm just going to be, just have a relentless pursuit. And anytime the ball's in the air, I'm going to run to the ball. Anytime, there's a play down the field, I'm going to be sprinting to the ball. And that's what kind of set me apart and allowed me the opportunity to be successful and make the team and have a career in the NFL.
Right at the end there, what John said about running to the ball, these are all things that he can control. And in the NFL, at the high levels, there's the best athletes in the country that are coming into one area, the best, fastest, whatever. I'm not going to talk. Take a very humble approach to this. I wasn't the most. I was good, but I wasn't the fastest. When I seen like straight freaks, and I wasn't that guy. I had to use taking coaching, fundamentals, work ethic, heart. I learned from a guy named Kevin Green once I got to the NFL, who was my outside linebacker coach, Hall of Famer, recently passed away. But he, again, not the most gifted athlete, but he was like, you play hard and you understand your opponent, things like that. I was able to outwork people. And another thing we brought up too is like being competitive. I hated like losing. And when I was in a linebacker room with 12 other people, I wanted to be the best in that room. I never thought I was going to play in the NFL. When I was in 10th grade, there was guys in my grade that were getting moved up to varsity. I was still on JV. When I was getting put into going into college, Central Michigan was like a 100 ranked school. They weren't very good. By the time we left, we were top 25, beat Michigan State, had very good success. then I was an undrafted free agent to the Packers. And I was like, if there was 90 guys on the roster at that point, I was number 90. So like I had an uphill, uphill climb to get to the point of making the roster. And then we talk about opportunities. All of a sudden, there's 3 guys in front of me that get hurt, and all of a sudden it's like you're playing against the Indianapolis Colts, third preseason game, and they had just lost in the Super Bowl the year before to the Saints, and you're the starter now. You got to play every defensive rep. And I'm like, well, talk about opportunities. Here you go. 10 tackles, sack fumble on Peyton Manning, defensive player of the game in a preseason game when you're trying to make the roster. That's how that game went out. So you're given those opportunities, and then you think back to, what is it? Every battle's won before it's fought. I'm thinking back, and I'm going to that game, like, I'm not thinking about what I'm going to do. I'm thinking about what I've already done to give me the confidence. So when I go into that game, it's like, all right, I've already set my mind up. I've already physically worked out. I've gotten to this point. Like, I'm confident now. Let's just go react. I don't have to think anymore. So, when I was given those opportunities, I took advantage of them. But it all came from the prep. Me, I was always that person that I didn't want to be stressed out going into the game. Preparation is like my big thing. I mean, Grasso, he sees me working out at the gym. I work out there every day because I'm afraid to like go in one day and be like tired, like go into a workout and be like, why am I sucking wind so bad? Like I hate that feeling. Like I always like being like don't get ready, like stay ready. Like, and that's kind of the approach I've always taken. But yeah.
I have a question. So was there any point, like these are like the paths you've taken, like was there any point where you were like, I don't know if this is for me, or like kind of questioned, making it to the NFL, or like questioned like, why am I doing this, stuff like that?
1,000%. So I'll go. There was a point, and I just talked to somebody else about this recently. So my wife, well, she's my girlfriend at the time. She was in Ann Arbor, and she had a job at the U of M hospital, and I was just getting done with football. My senior year, I had a really good junior year. My senior year of college, I was kind of banged up, didn't have the best year, and that's kind of like a contract year, right? Like you need to have a good senior year, especially coming from a smaller school, to get drafted, right? And I was an undrafted guy, and so I was like, I didn't think I was gonna make it. Like, should I not try this anymore? I'm probably not gonna get drafted, anything like this. So I actually thought to myself, like, I think I'm just gonna take up school. I'm gonna go to I was like gonna be a physical therapist, and I just applied for these internships, and there was one that was in Ann Arbor that I really wanted, and I didn't get it. So I'm like, maybe I'll just train for the. We had a pro day, so luckily for me, we had Dan Lefevre and Antonio Brown were on our team. So we had all 32 teams come out. All those 32 teams weren't coming to see me, but they were coming to see those guys. But luckily for me, I was there, and I trained for that pro day, and I grinded. And I had a very good pro day, but I had a decision to make right there. And honestly, talk about if I would have made the decision, like, I'm just going to stick with school. I mean, who knows? I could have done really well there, but I ended up playing 9 years with it. Like, it was it was like a fork in the road. I could have taken one or the other, and I took that one. And but yeah, at that point, I was like, I don't think I want to play. I don't think I'm good enough. You always have that doubt, right?
Yeah, self-doubt definitely creeps in. And actually, it's ironic. I remember I shared this story with Frank, but when he was getting ready to go into the league, I was kind of exiting. What year did you enter into the league?
2010.
2010. My last year was 2009 under contract. And I had an agent, really good guy, and he reached out to me. He said, hey, do you know this guy named Frank Zombo? He's over at Central Michigan. I'm like, yeah, I know him. He's like, do you mind reaching out and calling him? And I remember making a phone call. I don't know if you remember this or not, but I called Frank, and he was finishing up his senior year over there. And he's kind of shared some of those same things with me. I think you had a back injury. Do you remember that? Yeah. So he had a back injury, and he was saying that because my agent wanted to represent him, and he was kind of telling me, like, I don't really know if I'm going to play. I kind of got this back thing going on. I got some other opportunities, So I remember having that conversation with him, and that's normal. I had some of those doubts too. After my senior season at Saginaw Valley, just finished off a great career. And I got invited to play in the Division II All-Star game. It was called the Cactus Bowl. And for Division II guys, that's kind of like the Senior Bowl for the Division I guys. You go down to Texas, and they put us up in this like, we're in the middle of nowhere playing at this Division II. We're down there for a week, and they had all these NFL scouts that were down there kind of checking out some of the D2 guys. And that whole week, playing against some of the best D2 talent even. Like, I wasn't really confident during that week, even though I just finished off a great career at Saginaw Valley. There was other linebackers that I thought were a little bit more physically gifted than me. A lot of just talented athletes, and I was kind of banged up. We just got done with a long playoff run at Saginaw Valley, made it into like the third or fourth round of the playoffs. and I was coming off a high ankle sprain, and I just didn't really feel like I had a great week of practice. I didn't feel like I had a great week in front of the scouts. And then once we got into the game, I didn't really feel like I had a lot of opportunities. The way it was kind of structured, they weren't really like, you were just kind of checking yourself in the game, and things weren't, So for me, it wasn't like a great experience. And then after leaving there, like I remember coming home and just talking to my brother, who was a year younger than me, and I was just like, man, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm good enough, after playing, at this Cactus Bowl with all these guys, the best D2 talent in the country. And, there's guys out there that are a little bit more physically gifted than me. And, but it wasn't really that game or that week. You could have a bad game or a bad week, but that doesn't really define who you are. Leading up to that, I had a great career. And, I had a little bit of self-doubt that kind of creeped in, and it was the encouragement of my brother and my dad that kind of pushed me through that. Okay. And, once I got into an NFL camp, it was just a different mindset. I just needed that opportunity and that encouragement, and that kind of pushed me through.
I got a question. I know you guys talk a lot about the adversity that you guys went through and talking about other people being more physically gifted, but I know you guys put a lot of work into being where you guys got to. Was there ever a time you didn't believe in that work or believe in your own skill set, that you weren't actually good enough? A lot of people talk about being mentally strong, and the mind is like a big thing. Was there ever a time you guys didn't think you were good enough to do what you could do?
I think that like I talked about, self-doubt really kind of creeps in sometimes. Once I got to NFL camp, like Frank mentioned, I was third on the depth chart, and he talks about luck and opportunity. When I showed up to camp, we had a guy in front of me. His name was London Fletcher. And if you guys look up a linebacker named London Fletcher and you compare his stats to Ray Lewis, his stats are almost identical to Ray Lewis. And you guys probably never even heard of London Fletcher. He was an undrafted free agent. And then there was this other guy that was on the roster named Liam Ezekiel. He was on the practice squad the year before. So I was the third guy on the depth chart. And lucky for me, London Fletcher was in a contract dispute with the Buffalo Bills, and during camp, he didn't show up. So I got all the second team reps, and normally I would have gotten the third team reps. Then they went out after the second preseason game, and they traded for this guy named Courtney Watson, who was a second round pick out of Notre Dame for the New Orleans Saints. So now I'm fourth on the depth chart. So you talk about like self-doubt and not believing in yourself. Like when they brought that other guy in, like I started thinking like, I don't have a chance. Like I'm fourth on the depth chart, and I'm buried on this depth chart. I don't think I really have a chance. Like the numbers just aren't going to work out. You start to count the guys in the room, just like you kind of count the guys in this room right now, and you talk about it being a numbers game. So there was a little bit of self-doubt and some of that stuff that creeped in, but you just keep plugging away, like Frank mentioned. And in a preseason game, I'll never forget our last preseason game, my rookie year. We played down in Detroit, and I'll never forget. I just, like in camp, I just kept telling myself, I'm just going to relentlessly pursue to the football. That was my mindset. I'm just going to give these guys a reason. I just want to stick around, whether it's the practice squad or making the roster. Like that would be a bonus, but I just want to stick around, and I want to try to just make an impression somehow for one of these coaches. You just got to get one of the coaches to like you. And remember, and Sam, you were probably at that game, last preseason game of the season. It was on a Thursday night. We're playing down in Detroit, and I had so many fans and so many of my family and friends that were in the crowd that game, and you could hear them. And that encouragement just kind of pushed me over the edge. Like Frank talking about how he had a great preseason game against the Colts. Is that who he said? Like that was my game against Detroit. I had a sack against Dan Orlovsky. I think I finished with like 9 tackles. And I remember I was supposed to come out of the game like in the third quarter, and our special teams coordinator looked over at me. He's like, because I had just made a tackle. I came off the field, and he said, how many people you got in the crowd? I'm like, I don't know. There's a lot, because you could hear people in the back of the crowd say, Johnny, all yelling my name and stuff. And that just gave me a lot of encouragement. And he's like, get back in there, So they were supposed to rotate other guys in, but he saw something in me, throughout the camp and throughout that game. And he gave me another opportunity to go out there, and I just took advantage of that opportunity. But, there was definitely some times where, even in my third year, like my second year, I went in and started 15 games. And, it was because we drafted a guy in the second round, Paul Posluszny out of Penn State. And this guy was the Butkus Award winner. And I was in competition with this guy for the starting spot. And I competed all the way up until the last preseason game against this guy for the starting spot. And, This guy ultimately ended up winning the spot, but in week 2 against the Patriots, he goes down, breaks his arm, shatters his arm. So I had to go in there and I became the starting middle linebacker. And there was a lot of guys that I know that I was looking in the eye in the huddle as the defensive, as the linebacker and the leader of the defense that doubted me. So I had to earn their trust and earn their faith. And, so there was a lot of doubt then even, being a starter in the National Football League and not really having a lot of experience, so there was some doubt and some criticism there, but you just work through it and just overcome it. And even in your life, you're going to have that. And you just got to keep working through it and plugging away.
So I got another question. So you talk about doubt in football and the journey that you took to get there. How do you take that with you into your life now, like with your working and stuff like that?
So my life now, really, I've been really digging into my faith the last couple of years, and that's really kind of pushed me through some of my hard times. So just really just relying on my faith and just knowing that God has a plan for me, and really just plugging away and just using some of the things that I've learned through football, some of the character things and the hard work and the discipline, and just continuing those things. And those are the things that have allowed me to be successful, and that I'm going to continue to use. That's a good question, though.
Yeah, kind of both questions. I was thinking about football, like life too, is like a roller coaster of like the ups and downs. My aha moment, we were playing against Troy. It was our last bowl game, my senior year, and again came off that kind of banged up. Don't know if I want to play anymore. Playing against Troy, it was like the third play, and I just got done with the pass rush, and my confidence wasn't great. Like here's another thing about power of the mind in a way. Just, pass rush. And I was kind of like coming back, like ran to the ball, but I heard the offensive tackle, the offensive guard talk. And as I'm going by, and the guard says to the tackle, he's like, is he as good as they say? Is he as good as they say? Like that. I'm like, are they talking about me? Like, but it gave me like something. And I ended up having 3.5 sacks that game, my last game. So talk about like you're kind of questioning, and all of a sudden you come off your last game, and you're like, I just had 3.5 sacks. Maybe I should try to give this NFL thing a shot. But why did it take? And then I think back to like, why did it take for me to hear two guys talk to give me that confidence boost? And it really is like the power of the mind. Like you build that confidence, you need to be like, I am probably my worst critic. I was when I watched film. Like a coach didn't need to tell me like, oh, I screwed up here, my hands were like, I was always my worst critic. But also you need to have more self-confidence, I guess. And then Frank, what was your question?
The doubt that you talked about on your journey to the NFL and through college. How do you take that now, like in life, in your work?
Yeah, same. Right. So like I said, when I got the ups and downs, like football, you have your great games and then you have a bad game. You have a great games or your coach gets on you one practice or now they're all hugging your neck the next practice. Like it's just, and you got to just stay the course, right? And you can't, you just got to, you just said, you just got to keep plugging along. And it's like that with, now, I've been now retired for 6 years. In my profession now, I am leading almost a team or a company, and we're in that grow mode. And we do have, and I'm the VP of sales, so I'm responsible to show growth in our company. And then some days, some weeks, it's low. Some sales guys not happy with this, or he's not performing the way, or I'm not performing the way, and you get kind of discouraged. Like, and we have a company where it's kind of a newer idea, and then you question, like, is this going to work? And you're in a startup, so you could go under at any time, so you do question, and you have these ups and downs. So it's just trust and faith, and just stay in the course, and then keep plugging along. And the same things you learn in sports of working with the team and keeping each other encouraged and keeping positive and being more of a fountain, not a drain, right? I've always taken that approach to things too, as being somebody that people like to be around, but spreading positive energy and not being that drain that when you're around people, you're just stealing that positive energy. So just taking really that approach in the real life, real world as well, being like that locker room guy, the positive guy, and then apply it to the real world as well.
Yeah, I have a question. So we always talk about discipline and how it's such a big thing and a big factor in journeys through life. And I feel like some young athletes don't really understand the term discipline. And I know you guys really focused on it throughout your journey. So I'm wondering, like, how can you teach young athletes to learn and to use discipline to their advantage? Because it's very difficult for some people to wake up in the morning and say, yeah, my goal is to do this today. Like, I'm going to wake up early. I'm going to go outside and run. Like, what's your advice on discipline?
Yeah, I think I said this early on. I think the reason we got to this point is discipline and sacrifices. being disciplined is hard. It's one thing to talk about waking up early or committing your life to your goal, whether it's football, but then doing it is a whole nother animal, and the power of the mind, right? And having those right people around you to keep you on the right track, whether you're going to work out with a buddy and he's holding you accountable to be there every morning. But what's it like not playing football anymore? In a way, it felt kind of good to be done. It felt like almost a sense of relief, almost a bunch of weight taken off my shoulders, because my whole life, it revolved around football. Whatever I put in my body, going out at night with friends, whether I was drinking, everything I did, some sort revolved around football. And it was nice in a way to be done, and I reached a point that I was happy with. Playing 9 years, you guys have a long journey ahead of you still, but it felt good to kind of take that weight off my shoulders in a way of just now I can relax in a way. Because when I was doing it and to achieve that ultimate goal, your whole life has to revolve around it. So, we talk about discipline. It's your main priority. Everything you do revolves around that goal, and that's why I was able to get to the point I was able to.
I have a question. So, when you were facing adversity and, self-doubt, what was the one thing that, kept you motivated? Because you were, whatever, when you were, failing and stuff, what kept you motivated?
That's a good question, Michael. I think really the thing that kept me motivated was just kind of, you create, you talk about discipline, and I think discipline starts with a plan and then trust in that plan. And we talk about all the time at Eisenhower, trust the process. You create this plan and you have, what you want to accomplish and your goals, short-term, long-term goals. And I think that just trust in that plan and trust in the process and trust in what God has in store for you, really, to be honest with you, and just going after it every day with that process and kind of reevaluating that plan and that process to figure out what's working, what's not working, and really just having faith that things are going to work out the way they should. And really, that's kind of the way I go at things.
I think about what was my motivation through all those hard times, and I think I was extremely competitive in a way that when I was in a room with somebody, even though I was happy and that's how I think it should be in any locker room or business, is the people that you're working with, they're a teammate, and we're all trying to accomplish the main goal, but internally, you're still competing with that person in a way. And I liked it when I was in a room and the coaches were patting me on the back. And even though I'd be happy for my buddy who's getting patted on the butt, I liked being the guy. And I was competitive to a point that I was going to do whatever it was, whether it was taking coaching or doing the right fundamentals, that I wanted to be the guy getting the pat on the back. Also, not to say the name on my back was, I would talk to my dad and my mom every day. I was representing my family in a way that I didn't want to fail. So I was going to do whatever I could to succeed, so I didn't have to call my dad and be like, "Oh, Dad, I didn't make it," or, I would hate to make that phone call or to talk to him, and he's going to be positive about it, but deep down I was representing my friends and family back home, or my wife, or that was important to me, and I every time I played, that's one thing I can take extreme pride in. I think is if you played against me, again, not the fastest, not the biggest, maybe not the strongest, but when that whistle blew to start the play or when it was done, you're going to get a dog. You're going to get hit up in the chin. It wasn't going to stop. And talk about running to the ball. There's things you can control on the football field that if I was a young player and I was going back, I would say run as fast as you can to the ball every time. Be that guy on film that they're watching and be like, man, this guy doesn't stop. He's always running to the ball. That's what separates you from everybody else. Because you know why? It's hard to run to the ball in every play. You're tired. So it takes those special people, those special players, to have that innate ability, the mind, the heart, to run to the ball on every play because you're tired. It's hot outside. I'm playing every defensive rep. I'm playing every offensive rep. But still, when you're going as hard as you can every play, it's hard to take you off the field, and then it's hard to be unnoticed on film. So I took extreme pride in that. Everyone I can say, everyone I went against, they're going to be like, yeah, that guy, he went hard,
Man, I the stuff I'm taking from this. I'm cool with luck. I'm cool with all that stuff. But they're telling us to show up. Honestly, I mean, you had to stay, even though you were the fourth guy, and you had to show up. You didn't say, I'm gonna just quit. Yeah, you showed up and you eventually made it. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, the fact that you guys are telling us show up every day, put in the work, and it'll happen, you know? So this is great stuff. Great.
Yeah, for sure. You can tell you got a great group of ambitious kids, too. They're asking great questions, and that's awesome. So, like, as a kid, you know, you go from you play your first sports, and then everybody has this dream you're going to be a pro, right? But it's not a linear, you know, you're going to be a pro, and then you are a pro. It's you're going to be a pro, and then maybe the dream dies, and then maybe you doubt yourself, and then maybe something happens that picks you back up, and then maybe something happens and knocks you down. But so I heard throughout every answer that mental toughness is probably as important as anything. I heard that discipline, that habits are probably as important as anything. My question for you guys is, obviously you guys have both, you know, disclosed that you didn't think you were the most talented people in the world, that you felt like you used your mental toughness and your habits to kind of will your way to the top. How important is it, and do you think that it's possible that you can take the impossible and make it almost probable in anything that you do if you apply the right habits to your goal? Meaning, whatever, whether it's football, whether it's business, whatever you guys, whether it's family, if you guys have the right mental toughness and you have the right stamina and you're committed to the right habits, do you feel like you can make almost anything now after achieving what you guys have achieved possible or probable?
Give yourself the best opportunity if you develop good habits and good character, good morals. I just feel like if you work hard at something and you have a plan, you give yourself the best opportunity. And that's what you want no matter what you decide to do in life, is you want to give yourself the best opportunity. You don't ever want to look back and, you know, say, I wish I would have done things like this, or wish I would have done things like that. You don't want to live your life with any regret. So whatever you guys decide that you want to do in life, you got to go at it with a plan, and you got to trust the plan, trust the process. You got to constantly think about it, and you just got to have the discipline to get it done. And if it doesn't work out, because like we talked about earlier, the chance of becoming a professional athlete in the NFL is less than 0.5%. You know, guys that go from high school to college is like a small number, and from high school to college to the NFL is even smaller number. You know, so the chances of some of us in this room having that opportunity might not be there. But if you give yourself an opportunity and a chance and you go at it, at least at the end of the day, you can say that you've done the things that you wanted to do to try to get there. And if it doesn't work out, you still have those principles and those disciplines instilled in you to go after whatever's next. You know, so that's my words of encouragement for you guys.
John just said it perfect. And I've told this, I actually just had a conversation with Matt LaFleur, head coach of the Packers. He was a Central Michigan grad assistant when I was there. Just visited back there and spoke with his Saginaw Valley guy too.
Yeah, he's my teammate.
Yeah. There you go. So I just talked to him about this, and the reason it got brought up was we were walking through the new Packers facility. It's beautiful, and all the trainers are still there, and they're talking about like, oh, Zombo, when he got here, he hurt his ankle the first week. You should have seen this thing. And you know, for a guy maybe who was like a 6-year vet on a guaranteed contract, he would have taken all the training camp off just by the way this thing looked. And I was an undrafted free agent trying to make the squad. I missed like 2 days, you know, and it was just booted up, and I'm playing. And we were talking about the mindset of being an undrafted free agent trying to make a Packers team. And you said a lot of the things, and it kind of was like, I'm actually upset I didn't bring this up earlier, because it was my main thought about making the Packers, and it worked out, and giving yourself the best opportunity to make it. And it was living with the fear of regret. How many times do you talk to people and they're like, yeah, I had a shot at the NFL too, but I got hurt the shoulder, or I did this, or, you know, like, I didn't want to have that regret. I wanted to, if I was going to be 10 years later and somebody's like, oh, you walked on to the Packers, how'd it go? I didn't want to be like, oh yeah, this and that happened. I wanted to deep down know I did everything I could. So I wasn't afraid of not making the Green Bay Packers. I was afraid of living with the regret of not doing enough to make the Green Bay Packers. Whether it was running to the football was a huge one for me. Running to the football, not studying hard enough. I'm giving this opportunity. I'm going to do everything I can possibly do. And then if it doesn't work out, I'm not going to beat myself up 10 years down the road. So I wasn't afraid of not making it. I was afraid of living with regret of not doing enough to make it. So it was when I was there for the 3-week job interview for training camp, And I was studying nonstop. I was running to the ball. I was taking coaching. I was doing all the little things to put myself in the best opportunity so I didn't have to live with regret if I didn't make it. But yeah, that's it. I mean,
Great advice. So then, yes, anything's probable. With the right habits.
again,
Is that what I'm hearing?
Not every. I mean, it at least gives you the best opportunity to put you in a position to make it. And there could be a lot of circumstances like Paul. You know, they could have drafted a bunch of guys that are guaranteed money guys that no matter how well you do, those guys they're just gonna overtake you. Like, but at least it gives you the best opportunity to put yourself in the best possible situation.
There's things that can come up too in that business. There's injuries, you know, like he talked about contract. Like, I honestly feel like I was real even with the guy that they brought in, but they had so much money invested in this second round pick. And was he a good player? Yes. But I felt like in the offseason, I kind of had a leg up on him. I knew the defense a little bit better. You know, not to say that I should have started over him, but there's a lot of other things that go into the National Football League. It is a business. They got money invested in certain guys.
And it makes them look bad if they have a second round draft pick that they just invest a bunch of money in, and then you get an undrafted guy that overtakes another like GM.
Someone has to answer that.
Yeah.
You know?
So it's like, let's cover my butt a little bit. You're like,
yeah. But like, you know, just like you said, putting yourself in the best opportunity to be successful and, you know, just going from there, you know.
you don't got to live later in life with the regret of I should have did that or should have done that. At least you're at peace of mind. Like, hey, I did everything I could possibly have done. It didn't work out.
Like if I got cut from the Buffalo Bills, I would know that I did everything I could to make that team. I did all the right things. I took care of my body. I wasn't going out at night. There were some other rookies that were coming in and going out, you know, not putting their time in the playbook, not writing the notes down. You know, I had, you know, Frank could probably agree with this. You had a notebook. You were taking notes on the meetings. You know, you go back to the hotel room and study your notes, and you'd be ready for the next day. There was guys that, you know, come from these big schools. You know, I had a roommate from Tennessee. I mean, this guy wasn't getting into his playbook, going out at night, drinking during the week, you know, just really didn't take this opportunity as serious. And, you know, you wonder what that guy looks back on. You know, I don't think he really gave it his all. And different from what I did, I was, you know, laser focused on, that's all I thought about was, all right, what am I going to do in this next practice to get to highlight, you know, and get myself noticed, you know, because like I said, it takes one coach to recognize, you know, hey, look at this guy. He's running to the ball. The ball's 60 yards down the field and there's a linebacker sprinting to the ball. I remember one of the linebackers saying that, like, man, look at this guy run, you know, and I was sticking out, you know, even I was 225 pounds playing middle linebacker, and the ball's 60 yards in the air down the field, and I'm sprinting to the ball when other guys are just standing there watching it. You know, so that's what kind of set me apart and allowed me to have success and be able to break through the NFL.
Sounds like it's almost an advantage to be an underdog. I mean, the story you guys are telling is like, you know, you got all these super athletes that come in, and I don't want to say they're all prima donnas, so to speak, but they didn't have like something to prove like you guys. You guys almost use that to your advantage, and like whether you were the best athletes in the world or not, you're sitting here 15 years later saying I wasn't, and that was the reason that I was so committed to proving to everybody around that I was worthy of being there. And that was like, I don't know. I mean, it's almost like it's an advantage.
I think for me, it was an advantage. And most of all, I wanted to prove it to myself, you know, and once I got there, it was like, I had one of the guys pull me aside. It's like, hey man, relax. It's the same game you've been playing your whole life. It's just played at a higher level. Guys are a little bit bigger, a little bit faster. The playbook's a little bit bigger, but this is the same game you've been playing your whole life. And as soon as I realized that, and luckily I had that conversation with one of my teammates early on, as soon as I realized that, you know, everybody, you know, you come from different walks of life, different athletes. There's a lot of freak athletes out there. But for me, it was just, I was hungry. You know, I wanted just to take the most advantage of that opportunity that I was given and not to look back on it and regret anything. And that's what kind of pushed me through. But there's a lot of complacency. You know, some of those guys, like we had a first round pick that we drafted that year. And this guy, he showed up to practice and he just didn't have it in him. You know, you could just see it. Like we had 2 first round picks that year. And the second guy that we picked later in the first round, he just didn't have that dog in him, like Frank mentioned, and that like he just didn't show that he wanted to be there. And they spent first round money on this guy, and he only stuck around for 2 years, and he was out of there.
That's why. Because what happened? What do they say?
He got complacent.
A full wolf doesn't hunt. When all of a sudden you look at your bank account and it's filled with a couple $1 million, all of a sudden you lose a little bit of that drive, right?
Yeah.
John brought up running to the ball. Again, we keep talking about it. I had the exact same moment. We were playing the Seahawks' second preseason game. It was a screen backside. I was out of the film, came in the film, and made like a tackle at like the 10-yard line. The guy's about to walk in, but like shouldn't have made that play. D coordinator brings it up on, because you always review like game film, obviously, as like a defense, and he talk about a guy who wants to try to make a team like out of the thing, and like that was another play. Like that's what got me into the NFL. And the things that John and I are talking about, that as I think about it, it's all things that we can control. You can all control these type of things. Another big one is knowing your playbook. If a coach can trust you that you're going to do the right things. He talked about he had this notepad. I had note cards. I would just go through it because I'd be, bear fire zone. I knew exactly what I was doing on all these different, because you're going to go in there, they're going to call a blitz. And if you know what you're doing and your coach trusts you to put you in, because if you don't, it reflects bad on that linebacker coach, who then has to report to the D coordinator, who then has to report to the head coach. And in the NFL, like anything, it's all about CYA, covering your ass. So if I make my coach look good, he's going to want to put me in because if I keep screwing up, then he must not be coaching it right. So that makes him look bad. It's like a trickle-down effect. So like those are all things that you can control. You can know the playbook. You can run to the ball. You can control your effort. You can control your fundamentals and technique by taking the right coaching. Make your coach look good so he puts you in the good. It's like play the game a little bit.
Was there anything else that like motivated you to make it to the NFL? Was it like, because we all start when you're young. Like we like playing. It's a game. We like playing the game. Was there anything else that motivated you? Like are you talking about how you were about to go try out for the Packers and stuff like that? Was there anything like the fear of being average? Like I don't want to just go and say, oh, I could have been on the Packers, but this, that, and the other. Was there anything else that really motivated you to make it to the NFL?
No, I mean, again, I think that's just competitiveness of. I didn't really think it was going to happen, but then when the opportunity presented itself, it's like I just changed my mindset of like, all right, this is an opportunity. Let's not squander it. Let's not mess this thing up, and just do whatever you can to take advantage of that opportunity. But I honestly didn't think those opportunities were really going to present themselves, and then they did, and then it was like, all right, let's go. Here's my new goal. Here's my new mission. Let's do whatever we can so I don't have to live with that regret of not making it.
That motivated me was just having that opportunity to fulfill a lifelong dream of mine. I mean, that was my motivation was, all right, I have this opportunity in front of me. There's some adversity. There's some things along the way that are in the way, but just having that opportunity was to fulfill a lifelong dream of mine. I always wanted to be a professional athlete. And as I, got later in my years in high school, and obviously it came down to football was my sport. That was my motivation. And he talked about his family. Like I wanted to represent my family and represent the community where I came from, and just really fulfill that lifelong dream of mine. That was my motivation.
I've got a question about college. So your senior year of high school, everybody feels like you're the guy. I mean, you're the best player on your team. You're getting recruited out of high school to go play at some college. I mean, you're talking about being undersized. You're talked about being not the fastest, biggest, strongest. What did it feel like going into that freshman year, competing with guys that are older? I mean, they could be 20, 22 years old, and you're just an 18-year-old young kid going into college.
That's a great question, and that's a really mature question, in my opinion, because when I was in high school, you talk about being that guy. When you go to college, it's very humbling, very humbling. Like you think you work hard in high school, and you think that the program that, in some programs, they work you. We worked over the summer, and I was jumping in the workouts with you guys, so I know what you guys are going through. But it's a very humbling experience, and you reflected on guys being older. Like that's something when I was coming out of high school, I thought I was the man coming out of high school, and I thought I was walking in a D2 school, and I was going to be this superstar walking on. And it was a very, very humbling experience for me, because you're talking about, I was 18 years old when I walked into Saginaw Valley, and there's guys that are 21, 22 years old that have put the time in. They got size, they got speed, they've been up there all year, they've been going through the workouts and the program. So for me, that was a very humbling experience. Like I thought I worked hard in high school, and then when I got to college, that's when I realized, man, I need to kick it into gear. And but you just I got a thing. You either lead, you follow, or you get out of the way. And for you, Braylon, you got to find somebody that you can follow, and then eventually you'll turn into that leader. and you're going to be fine. All right. Because I know the type of person you are, and you got a good mindset, and I know that you want to be the best receiver. And watching this guy play football, this guy goes up and snatches the ball out of the air, and he's got a lot of talent. And you work hard, you're going to find your way. Yep.
I would honestly say the transition from high school to college, like John said, is humbling. It was more humbling than the transition from college to pros. Being an 18-year-old kid and the dudes being older, and you're kind of a young kid, and those kids at the end, they're like adults now. Like whereas when you get to the league, everyone's pretty much an adult at that point, or everyone's bigger. They've been under a good strength program. You're going to experience, if you're playing college football or college sports, you're going to talk about some self-doubt that you're going to have to fight through. That was probably my biggest, because you come in, you don't know a whole lot of people. Everyone back home is doing like graduation parties. They're hanging out. They're enjoying the summer, and you're in camp, and it is a freaking grind. Like when you're in high school, maybe you have football 3, 4, 5 hours a day. It is all day football. It is football is all day. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, this is a huge eye-opening experience. And being like, I remember my parents coming to visit me after my first week, and like, and you had like 2 hours, and we were hanging out, and then by the end of it, like I couldn't even help it. Like all of a sudden tears are rolling down. I'm just like I gotta, I have to grow up real fast. Dan Lefevre, our starting quarterback, who was an All-American, was drafted. His parents came from Chicago to pick him up. He was done after that first week. Like, and he had to talk to Brian Kelly, and Brian talked him into staying. Like, everybody you talk to was like, maybe this college football thing isn't for me. It is a freaking grind. And talk about the ups and downs on the roller coaster. Like, that's one that you really got to fight through and just trust it, because now after a couple months later, now you start to, be miserable with your buddies, and you start to like trust each other, and you fight through it together. Now they become your brothers, and now you're doing it, you're miserable together in a way. And those are the same buddies that now are my best friends, going golf trips every year, and we went through it together, because college is more of like a mental grind. Those coaches try to really break you mentally. Pros, it's a little different, but college, you got to really like be miserable together and build that trust together, and then become your best friends, and now you're hanging out with your boys again. But when you first get there, those first 2-3 weeks, it's a freaking mental grind. And they call it like the midnight train. Every once in a while, the buddies that was there that night, and then the next morning, like, where did he go? It's like the midnight train came and picked him up. He's out of here.
I think it's important to talk about. I know, John, you mentioned your wife at the beginning, and a lot of this is like your mental toughness, what you brought to the table, but like you had to have surrounded yourself from, and I'm sure there's coaches, and that's kind of what I'd like to dive into for a second. Who did you surround yourself? Maybe it was just your family, maybe it was coaches, whatever it was. Who were those people who helped you either learn the importance of this mindset, learn that no quit attitude? Who were those people? Because I think it's super important. I know whether it's business or being a father, sometimes you second guess yourself just in your own ability, and there are people you surround yourself with who kind of help you, either teach you or help build you back up.
I think for me, growing up, my father instilled a lot of discipline in us. He was a single father for a lot of years. I'm one of 5, so my dad took on 5 kids. My mom was sick, throughout. So my dad, they went through a divorce at an early age, and my dad took on 5 kids, worked really hard, Ford Motor Company, had a side business that he would work, and created a lot of rules and discipline for us. So he was someone that really instilled a lot of discipline in me. And then when I got to college, obviously dated my wife since we were in 10th grade. She was my asked her to homecoming, and then didn't realize I was asking her to become my wife, but she was my girlfriend all along. And she really kind of kept me grounded, was a great person, had a great head on her shoulders. So I spent a lot of time with her. She ended up going to Central Michigan, but she would come over on the weekends, and we spent time together. And then just a lot of the coaches that I had. I was always around the facility. When you're a college football player, you spend a lot of time at the facility. You're watching film, going to classes. You got study hall, things like that. So just the people I surrounded myself with. My brother Joe, a year younger than me, he was someone, even though he's younger than me, he was a role model to me. I think we kind of both kept each other in line and kept each other focused. So those are some of the people that I surrounded myself with.
Yeah. it's funny listening to John talk, and it makes sense. We're both from the same area, very similar backgrounds, and being undrafted, going to smaller schools to start out. Like there was a formula for guys like us to make it, and that's probably why we made it. And then same thing, my dad, right? And I think about it. I keep hammering this one is my dad didn't care when I was growing up about like scoring the goals or whatever. He just wanted effort. And I tell my kids this too, is I just want effort. Don't be loafing around and those things. But my dad installed that to me pretty early age. And then same thing, my wife, we started dating my junior year of high school. So she was always with me along the way. And then I think surrounding yourself with people like you, right? And the guys that are going to be those drains, the ones that are trying to steal energy or trying to get you to do the things that aren't going to put your goals in the right directions, you got to part ways with them. And then I think it stemmed with me too, is and you may see it at the weight room, right? Like recruiting, guys that are motivated or guys I like to be around that are successful folks that I just like to be around and surround myself with those kind of people. And we have like a small group of guys that I work out with every morning, and they're always thanking me for bringing them along or show them the way to work out. But like deep down, it's like them that's keeping me motivated to keep going and to show up every day. Because honestly, those are those times you get those those early morning workouts, and you're like, man, like I'm tired, I'm sore, but it's like when you have somebody there that is trusting in you to be there, you show up, and it's what it's all about. It's surrounding yourself with the right people, the people that are fountains, not drains. Positive guys that are successful, right?
I'm sure you guys have all heard this. My dad's the first one who told me this, but they say, show me your friends and I'll tell you your future. Surround yourself with the right people, like-minded people that have high goals. If you guys have high goals, make sure you surround yourself with those type of people as well, right? I want to try to change gears. So all of us, no matter where we are in life, we're obviously all in different positions. You're going to reach a point in life where, your career is going to come to an end, or this chapter is going to come to an end, right? Maybe it's the NFL, maybe it's high school, maybe it's college, whatever it is. It's important to know that sports teaches you so much. These guys have told you this, right? These elite habits that are formed what carries you to success in the next chapter. So it's not a waste of time. Wherever you guys decide to get off the freeway and go on to the next mission, that's the beginning. And you guys need to understand that mentally. It's the beginning. So like for me, my story, switching gears into business a little bit, is I played travel soccer my entire life. I'm 16 years old. I'm Eisenhower High School. I make the varsity team as a sophomore. It's the night before our first game. I walk up to my coach. I tell him I'm leaving. I quit. He says, I'll see you tomorrow. I says, I'm done. I quit. I says, my phone's ringing. We actually had cell phones back then, not as good as you guys have, but I says, my phone's ringing. I got customers that are upset. I got to go. I walked off that field. I didn't step back onto the soccer field till I was a senior in high school, in the bleachers, 30 pounds heavier, watching all my friends compete for a state championship, all my teammates, the guys that I played with, the guys I was in the trenches with my entire life, right? You guys understand this. So I couldn't do anything about it. I was 30 pounds heavier, but I was sitting on them sidelines like thinking, gosh darn, man, if I would have stayed, man, I could have been a part of this. Maybe I could have made a difference. But I was so committed and I was so ready to move on to that next chapter of my life. I realized like that's what I wanted to do, right? And everything that I learned in soccer is really what set me up for success in business. All those late nights, all those long days, the grind, the going to practice when you don't want to go to practice, going out for a jog when you're tired, watching what you're eating, all that stuff prepared me for life. So what you guys are doing right now is you're preparing yourselves for life. And no matter where you go in life, everything that you've done and everything that you're going to do, you should always keep it in your mind that we're preparing ourselves for success, right? So wherever you exit, it's not the end, it's the beginning, and it's important that you guys note that. So personally, I got to go on, I got to build an awesome business. We built a landscape business out of my dad's van. I built the largest landscape business in Michigan, 17th in the country. And since then, we've got to build a whole lot of businesses. We're in a whole bunch of different businesses. And It just goes back to everything these guys are saying. Like when I enter a business, like we're in the pizza business now, and we're in the landscaping business again. We're in the janitorial business, the real estate business. I get into these businesses like I'm not the best in the room. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I was never the best student. But I apply these principles that I learned as a kid, and mostly with sports, because when you like something, you tend to be better at it, right? So you learn through passion, you develop these elite habits. And like I said before, what seemed impossible is actually probable, just as long as you have the right habits, right? Just as long as you're disciplined, just as long as you're willing to have a bad day and keep working through it because you know that tomorrow is going to be a great day. All of these things that you guys are learning is the whole reason why you're going to be winners. So keep that in mind. There's nothing special at this table. These guys said it. They competed at the highest level. A fraction of 1% of people in the world play in the NFL. And they're sitting here saying, yeah, we're good athletes, but there's plenty better than us, right? Yeah, we're big and we're strong, but there's bigger and there's stronger guys. As long as you keep that in your mind and as you go through life and you understand that, yeah, it's important. God gives you what he gives you. He gives you the cards that he gives you. Play the hand and play it to the best of your ability. Life is going to be great. And no matter where you guys get off the freeway and you go into the next chapter of your life, understand that all the blessings that you guys have had, all the stories, all the experiences are what's going to get you to the next level. So that's what's most important. That's what I heard today. I hope that that's what you guys heard, right? I hope that you guys leave here saying, I learned something, or, oh my gosh, I realize what I want to do, or, whatever it is, I want to run through a wall and I want to make it happen. Like get up, get the energy, like every single day is a new day, press reset, go knock it out. That's what I hope you guys get out of today. These guys are a great example that anything's possible. I want to wrap it up like that. Unless anybody else has any other questions or they want to add anything else to this conversation.
I think I'm good. I think you got a lot out of it.
Yeah.
You got some bright kids here. I'll
Yeah,
tell you what,
no
there's some
question
great
about it.
questions,
That's-
some mature young men, man.
You guys are the future. Remember that. So, your whole life is in front of you.
I just have one last question.
Yeah.
You're talking about faith and like how that helped you through and how you're trying to get closer now. How have you taken that with football and just like fused it together and applied it to life, football, just everything? Like what do you do?
Well, I just think like, just like in football and in life, like there's adversity. Sam just talked about press and reset. Some days you're going to have good days. Some days you're going to have bad, and really just relying on your faith and trusting that things are going to be okay. Like those are the things, and having faith that allow you to get through some of the hard times and some of the good times. And one thing I do is I just give it all to God. If you just give it all to God, good, bad, then you're all right. You're going to make it through. So that's what I think.
Yeah, obviously faith in God, and then faith in yourself. And I think the faith when you go against those hard times, and you need that added boost of confidence, you go back to your past and you think about the work that you put in, the preparation. Like, again, I said, every battle is won before it's fought. In order, when you are in those tough times, to resort back to like, what am I standing on now? You're standing on that foundation that you built and the work that you put in prior, whether it's in the gym or mental, whatever it is, or the strains where you are broken down mentally and you fought through them and won them. Now you're like, all right, I've already been in a worse situation and I've made it through. This isn't going to be that. Right? That's what mental toughness is. It's breaking yourself down to a really point where you're about to quit and you don't. So then when you get to another tough point, you're like, oh, I've been to a worse mental spot than this and got through it. Right? So it gives you more confidence and faith. So when you do get to those bottom points, you're able to, dig yourself back up.
Life is undefeated. The longer you're here, the more shots you're going to take, and it always wins. But here's the difference between a successful person and a not successful person. You're going to deal with stuff, right? You're going to deal with the ups. You're going to deal with the lows. If you get out of bed and you're the type of person that says, bring it on, no matter what it is, when a problem or some adversity is in your way, you look at it and you almost, I hate to say it, but you almost like say, I want it. Bring me the problems. Let me deal with the problems. You're going to be successful. Because it's those problems that knock the weak down. And it's the same problems that lift the strong, the successful up. You want them. They're going to happen to you guys. So go get them. Take them on one at a time.
I think what they're saying, it sounds cliche, but it's enjoy the journey. I mean, if you think about your stories, what molded and shaped you were the times that were the most difficult, probably. So I mean, essentially, then we should be excited when we're in the middle of that, because that's what's shaping us to be who we're going to be tomorrow. So I'm ready to go run through a wall.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm excited for everybody here. You guys got so much opportunity in front of you guys, and understand that. Feel it, live it, enjoy it, love it. You guys are all in a great spot. You're at the best time of your life. So enjoy it. Whatever you want to do, knock it out of the park. Anything's possible and anything's probable with the right habits and the right discipline. So remember that.